Well, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome. My name's Brian Peck. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing here with Mazévo, and welcome to our June Mazévo Connect. We do these webinars every month. I know several of you have been to these webinars in the past, so you know how this works by now. For those of you that may be brand new, welcome. The way we typically run these is we will be having today, we have a very special presenter. So we're going to let Kelly present here today. And if you have any questions during the presentation, you can always put those in the chat. We can also open it up after her presentation as well. If you want to express your question verbally that way, you can do that as well. But before we jump into that, I will just make a few announcements and introductions. I am joined here by several staff on the Mazévo team that typically join us on these webinars. I've got Joe Finley and Wendy Newland, who both are trainers for Mazévo. I know several of you have worked for them. They also do or worked with them to get Mazévo up and running, and they also do customer service and support when you have questions. I've got Claire DeGroat, who helps me on the sales team here for Mazévo, and then I've got Dean Evans, our CEO. So that's the staff we have here joining me. A couple of announcements. I actually just got back. I don't travel a whole lot for work for Mazévo, but actually this last week I did. I had the opportunity to go down to Florida. Mazévo was a sponsor for the Florida Student Union Summit that was hosted by the University of South Florida. So it was a great opportunity. It's basically a one-day summit, and several directors and events operations staff get together from across the state, and they share ideas and best practices and challenges and things like that. So it was a wonderful opportunity to kind of get out there in person and kind of hear what's going on in the student union space. So that was a great time, and learned a lot, met a lot of great people with that. The other thing I wanted to just bring up is that we have several new customers that have joined the Mazévo community over this last month. I wanted to welcome the University of North Texas. Most of their campus events are coming over to Mazévo, including their School of Music, which is actually a very well-known School of Music there in the state of Texas. We also welcome LaGrange College out of Georgia. And I'm not exactly sure, but I think LaGrange may be going for the title of fastest Mazévo implementation. I know they were very motivated to get up and running with the system, and they may already be live. I haven't heard for sure, but yeah, within a week or two, they were almost ready to go, I heard. So welcome to them. And then finally, Texas Tech University out of Lubbock, I believe. They joined on as well. So welcome if anybody's on from those schools, welcome there. And yeah, so without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our presenter for today. We've got Kelly McDonald. Kelly is the Assistant Director of Event Scheduling for Loyola Marymount out of LA. And a little background, so Loyola has actually been a Mazévo customer for about exactly 3 years now. They joined on in 2022, which is also when Kelly joined at Loyola as well. So she was brand new in the role, and they were introducing a new scheduling system. So she kind of got to everything up and running from the get-go there. And I'm sure she'll tell you more about that here in a moment. But Kelly has also been instrumental for us. She's given us a ton of great feedback over this time about Mazévo, and several of the new features that we've rolled out here and there over the last few years have come from Kelly's ideas. So I'm sure she'll be sharing a few of those with you today. But yeah, so without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Kelly and let her kind of take things away. So, Kelly?
Oh, hi, everybody. Like Brian said, I am Kelly McDonald. I am the Assistant Director of Event Scheduling at LMU, Loyola Marymount. And let me share my screen real fast. Well, you guys can see it.
Not yet.
No. How about now?
There we go. Yep.
All right, there we go. So it's a picture of our beautiful campus and our beautiful chapel that we have on campus. Where's my next? There we go. So we are a leading university in Los Angeles. We are known for our academic excellence, commitment to social justice, and our beautiful views. So our campus is absolutely gorgeous, and hopefully one day we can invite everyone to our campus and maybe have a crazy Mazévo, I don't know, conference or something. But that's high hopes in the future that I have dreams of. So at LMU, our student population, for our undergrads, we have around 8,000. Our graduates, we have around 3,000. So on our main campus, we have around 11,000 students. We also have a law school that we are trying to get involved and have them be part of Mazévo as well. They're currently on our old system, 25 Live, but we have about 1,000 students in our law school. So a little bit of our Mazévo stats for you. We have about 47 buildings, 647 rooms. We have 64 different secondary approvals. We have about 261 resources, and we have about 15 different service providers. So we have a lot going on in our system all the time. I work in the department that's university events. Not a lot of universities have a department that's dedicated just to events, so we are quite lucky here on campus. And how our university events department is broken out into two different groups. Our first group is what we call conference and event services, and we have our event scheduling team, which is my team. We do all the internal events. We also have our business operations team. They do our external events. They do all of our summer conferences. They do budgets and payrolls. We also have our event management team, which is our event managers. They are in charge of the higher level events that have more hand holding, clients that have bigger diagrams, they have lots of locations, they sometimes are renting things, so they need help with other departments like parking and things like that. So our event managers are very hands-on with those higher level events to make sure that they're the highest quality. We also have our event operations team, which they are in charge of setting up all the events and taking down all the events. That is two coordinators and like 80 students that we have in charge of doing all of that. And we have roughly about 10,000 events a year. So again, we're working on a high level here. So as Brian mentioned, we used to be on 25 Live and we started with Mazévo in 2022. I started in 2021 and my job was, hey, we have this old scheduling software and we are trying to get a new one. And so through going through a lot of different companies, we decided to go with Mazévo, which we are all very happy about. I am a huge supporter of this company and of this team. So if anyone ever has any questions or any insight or anything like that, you can always come to me. I'm very helpful. Um, so at the end of June, in June 22, we went live with Mazévo. It took us about a month to transition. So whoever is doing this in a week, I am hats off to you. That's amazing. Um, but it was actually a pretty good, smooth transition. So if anyone is still in that process, you're almost through, I promise. It'll be up and running. For our system, who we let allow to use it is faculty. Yes, we actually have faculty who use it, which is quite surprising. I've heard from some people. We have staff who use it quite often. We also have registered student organizations and the School of Film and Television students. Our old system, we were not able to have any students in the system whatsoever. And it was really difficult for these specific two groups that needed and are booking rooms on campus very regularly. So their team had to do it for the students individually. Now with Mazévo, we're able to set it up to where the students actually book their stuff themselves, and it goes through a review process with our approvals that those departments that are in charge of these student groups review those events, make sure they're following policies and everything, and then we get to confirm them and say you're good to go. But that being said, students that are not part of organizations or part of the film department making film permits, they don't have access to Mazévo, so like we can't have them making parties, or if it's a study group or something like that, they have to go through like the library and book a room for like studying. Um, so a goal for Mazévo is we want it to be the master calendar. So all the classes should be in there, all the events should be in there, all the meetings should be in there. We do struggle a little bit. There are spaces on campus that they want to have complete control over their space, and they don't tell me what events they have, and we kind of have it as a restricted space. So we're working on getting those people to help enter their events into the system so we can have Mazévo be the master calendar. I do have reports that go to our campus safety department. And so they get a list every day of what's happening on campus, all the classes and where they are, and all of the events and meeting spaces. I'm going to jump into Mazévo, guys, and show you some stuff that we do with the system that maybe you guys don't do, or maybe you don't use, or maybe you use it differently than I do, which would be great to hear about. So let me go to my Mazévo. Um, so if you guys have the global access view, this is what it looks like on the back end. If you only have certain permissions, then your screen might look a little different than mine. Um, so we go to our settings, and this is the back end stuff where like you can do all the magic stuff of creating the Mazévo. You add your buildings and your rooms and your room types. Something that we play with a lot is building hours. So I kind of wanted to touch base on that a little bit. So mostly what I use building hours for is to close all the buildings on campus. It's a really easy way to just, we're having a blackout date, nothing else can happen on this date, and it just blocks it so no one can make events. And you could also do it by certain buildings. If you want to just block off a building for maintenance, or I've done that before where the whole building had to go down because they shut the water off. And we had to quickly shut the building down. So I was able to do that and then reach out to the other events and get them moved to different locations. Um, so I usually mostly use it for closing all the buildings, as you can see. With that, I think it's really important that when you put a building hour in, that you also go and add a special date. The special date just lets your clients know what's happening. So I will put in special dates for our blackout events. So, like when we have Welcome Week, no other events can happen on campus. So, when people go to the event book and they see, oh, it's grayed out, I can't book it. Why? It tells them at the top very nicely. This is why. I could show that. Does anyone want to see that? Should we show that?
Sure.
No? Yes. Sure. All right. August 15th. So this is the event book for those of you who don't know. It's a very handy way to see what's happening in a building in real time on whatever date. So I said August 12th. No, I did not. What date did I say?
15. I think you said the
Thank
15th.
you.
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
That's
okay.
July.
You're in July.
I am in July. Well, here we go. This is why Mazévo is so helpful. So here you could change the months here. So we want August 15th. There we go. And here it is at the top right here. It says special dates, Crimson event, welcome week. So this event is allowed to happen because it's part of the welcome week. But as you can see, if I was a client and I wanted to book something, I can't. It's all grayed out. So that being said, I'd also like to talk about our event questions. Now, Mazévo probably warned each and every one of you when you signed up not to make a million questions. And that's for good reason, because I didn't listen and I made a million questions. I have 85 of them, and that is way too many. And now I have to sort through them and figure out what questions we actually want to ask, how we can condense questions. So this is my just big shout out to everyone. take this warning, take it seriously. I'm finding that a lot of my customers and clients are getting very tired of repeatedly filling out all of these questions, especially if they haven't caught on that they can add multiple bookings to the same event. So they're making like five different events for the same day in different locations, and they're getting so tired of filling out all these questions. So I have to make a way to educate them that they can all add bookings to the same date and figure out a way to figure out my questions here. So if anyone else has gotten themselves into this situation, let me know. How I have the questions set up though is everyone that fills out a Mazévo request has to fill out certain questions. So the ones that say always, everyone has to answer. So there's quite a few of these. Then we have some that are based off locations. So if you book a certain location, then a question will pop up. So I have certain locations that one of them we need 20 days, at least 20 days out to book it. So the question is, hey, are you giving us 20 days? If not, we're going to deny it just to get them up front because they don't read the notes and they don't read the little warning pop-up. So this is just one more area to tell clients, hey, are you following the rules? Also, sometimes there's other forms that they have to fill out. So if they want to use the chapel, for example, there's a special form that they need to do along with this. So the question lets this person know, hey, thanks for booking. You're almost done as long as you go and fill out this form. And the question gives them the link to the form. Also have questions based off of organizations. So these I find very handy for my student groups because I have, again, two different student groups in the system. One group is making film permits, and one group is booking basically meetings for their student organizations. Because the student groups are so specialized and their approvers need to review more details, we've added a lot of questions for each of the groups. And as you can see, that's even more questions for the students when they're filling out the form because they have to fill out the always questions, and now they have to start filling out specific questions for which group they belong to. So it can be and is a long process when it shouldn't be as long. Mazévo is very easy to use. It gets you through things very smoothly. So again, this is a warning to everybody. Don't fall into the same pitfall I've fallen into here with my questions.
Mhm.
Are there any questions so far? Are we doing good?
So
I
far,
talk
so
really
good.
fast, so if I'm going too fast, I can also slow down.
Yeah, no worries.
California, what can I say?
Kelly, you may have mentioned this before. One question I had is, how many requests do you all get in on a regular basis?
Well, during the academic year, we get quite a few. During the summer, maybe it's like 10 or few a day.
Okay.
And again, we have our calendar open, not again, but I should tell you, we have our calendar open for basically an entire year. So we let people book, like right now, people can book today through the end of May 2026.
Hmm.
So some people are still putting in events now for next year that we're already looking at and reviewing and asking them questions about.
Okay.
Oh, I did miss something. I was going to talk about statuses because you can create as many statuses as you like. And, you have your normal approve and conflict, but we've actually added a couple different ones like athletic status. So whenever we have games or people are using the pool, we put those specific events into an athletic status because then we have our report tailored to only show certain things. And for athletics, we don't actually need to provide them with anything. It's usually they're already at the basketball court, they're already at the volleyball courts, they're already at the pool. Those things already exist. We don't need to bring any equipment or anything to them. So it's a way of keeping our reports clean and in the system to see because of all the beautiful colors. We take advantage of all the colors that we can use for our statuses. It helps it's easier when we're looking like in the event book and we can just see the colors of everything that's happening. We also I have specific confirmations for like the film permits because those also don't need to show up on our report. Those students only get access to the space. They don't get access to equipment or anything. And we have a special manager review for my internal events because we do so many in the internal side because we do anything from small events to like medium size events. So anything from just needing a conference room or a classroom to actually needing a room with chairs and tables to set up in a diagram. So for those kind of events, when our students are feeling a little uneasy and they want to make sure that they've done it correctly, they put those events into a student manager review status. And so our student managers, they're a little higher, they've been with us a little longer, they're trained in different areas. So they actually go in and look at those reviews at a different, more higher level caliber to make sure that everything is entered correctly and all the questions have been asked. We also have what I call UE requested, which my department's called University Events, so that's where the UE comes from. And this is for when my event managers are working on events. It's a black color. It lets my student workers know that's not an event they're supposed to touch. So we have other ways that indicate that too, but this is just one of the ways to help keep things separate and keep things organized in the system.
Awesome. Kelly, a question did come in here from Amanda. She's curious about how you deal with classes there. If you could talk a little bit about how classes end up in your system. She's also curious about how it works if somebody wants to schedule a classroom and the timing of that. Can you talk to that at all?
Question. Yeah. Our academic registrar's office, they are also in Mazévo, and they have a system where they upload all of the classes into the system. And for us, for people to use classrooms, sometimes, classes change, sometimes they're reorganizing or things change. So at the beginning of every semester, we wait 2 weeks in my department until we start confirming classroom requests. So we make sure that all the classes are in the system. We make sure that we give them 2 weeks for any changes that come up or that are needed. But after 2 weeks, we then can, whatever is we are then allowed to use classrooms as event spaces, as long as there's no classes in them.
Okay, great. And Amanda, if you have any
And
follow-on.
we do have rules around classrooms. We don't allow food. We don't allow other equipment to be brought in. We don't let people like rearrange the room because they won't put it back. And then the next day a class comes in, they're like, what the heck? So we do have special room restrictions for classrooms.
Great. Excellent. Yeah. And Amanda, let us know if you have any follow-on questions to that. So thanks, Kelly.
Great. Okay. Moving on to my secondary approvals. Now I have a lot. We have like 64 of them. And I have approvals mostly for locations. Most of these are special locations on campus that the other department owns that space and they just have to make sure that for whatever reasons they're approving or not approving events that want to use those spaces. Sometimes spaces are specifically funded to where they want only certain kind of events in there, so like higher level events and things like that. We have a president's dining room that only allows like the president to use for special things like that. So we do have approvals to make sure that nobody else gets in there and tries to use the space when they shouldn't. So a lot of it's on location. I do have We have our FM carts, our facility management carts. So if people need to rent those or use those, they can actually put it into the system and then it gets forwarded to our facilities management team and they approve it and then work with the person to get them access to the carts, make sure the carts are returned on time. We also have approvals for like event types. So like if someone says they're working with an external client, then an approval will pop up to let us know, oh, this might actually have to go to our other team for them to do contracts and things like that. Mm, a lot of its location, like I've mentioned. I have a couple approvals in there that I have put in there for my own self for notifications. So you can add an approval based off of event questions. So based off of all those questions that I showed you before, if someone answers one a certain way, an approval can be triggered. So, for example, if someone says on all the questions that they want an event manager, they need extra help on their event, I now get an automatic approval to come pops into my thing, so I can then go and review the event and say, do you qualify? Do you not qualify for an event manager? Is this just a simple one that my team can handle, or does this actually need a higher level? I also have approvals for myself if people say they want to rent equipment. So if they indicate in the questions they're going to rent equipment, it then triggers me to go and look at the event and say, hey, okay, if you're renting equipment, we're renting insurance. Here's when the insurance is due. Here is how you send me the insurance. And if you don't send me the insurance by this day, your event is approved, but whatever rental stuff you're asking for is not approved. So I kind of use the approvals as just a notification for myself because we get so many events and kind of relying on my team to tell me and notify me. It kind of just takes that out of the process where they just know that I'm getting pinged on it and I will look at it and they can focus on their stuff. Um, we also have like services. So if there's a special service that somebody wants, that'll get an approval notification. And then if it's approved, then we can confirm their event. So lots of approvals, lots of approvers, which this kind of also goes into. I also use Task. I'm not sure how many people use Task out there, but I just kind of started using them over the last maybe year and a half. That again, when an event indicates that they want an event manager, I kind of started this way instead of the approvals, but now I get a task notification too. If an event has meets certain qualifications that we need to loop the fire marshal into, I can now get a task that notifies me, hey, you need to look at this event. So I kind of use task and my approvals a little bit the same, because I haven't figured out which one I prefer to use. So I'm testing them both out and which one I like notified better. Because they're both doing essentially the same thing on some events. I'm getting both a task and an approval. So I don't necessarily need both, but I'm just trying to figure out which one I prefer. I'm thinking I like the approvals better, just as a note, if anyone's curious. Um, the task, you just have to like look at your day at a glance and see if a task is there. Whereas the approvals, I have a whole like of my approvals I can go to, which I should show you now. So I have quite a few that are waiting for me right now. And at the top, because I've labeled them in a certain way, I know what this is asking me to look at. This event is asking for an event manager. So I know when I'm reviewing this, that's what it's asking me to approve or deny. I have approvals for events that tell me that they're still in progress, just so we can keep an eye on them because we found that some events were telling us, yeah, we're still working on it, but then 2 days before the event, then tell us, oh, we're renting this stuff, we're doing this, we're doing this. So this is a way of keeping me communicating with our clients and saying, okay, you're still working on this, so I'm gonna just leave it in my queue so I know to keep checking back in on so I don't come into a last minute kind of situation. Um, I also am an approver of a couple spaces. It doesn't look like I have any space approvals right now, which is good. But they would also show up here because I do check. There is one space on campus where we don't let any students use it, and it has to just be for faculty and staff. So when those kind of approvals come in, I have to review the event, look at their notes, see if they're asking for anything that's out of the ordinary for that space. Any questions about approvals and approvers?
One question that I had is how good are people at reviewing their approvals and getting back to you? Is that something you got to keep a close eye on, or are people pretty good with that? You want to talk about that a little bit?
They're pretty good. We do have an internal rule that we allow approvers 3 business days to look at it. And if they don't approve it or deny it within 3 days, we assume that it's fine. And we work under the assumption that it's going to be approved And all the approvers know that they get these 3 business days. And sometimes if they don't approve it, even after the 3 business days, we still will reach out just to kind of do our due diligence and make sure that because maybe they're on vacation, right? Or maybe they're out of the office and there's not all approvers have backup approvers.
Hmm.
Because I should mention that on your approvals, you can add multiple people. Only one person needs to go in and actually approve the event, but you could put like a million people on there and they'll still get notified and they'll all get to review it. But only one person has to go in and actually approve it.
Yeah.
So if there are people who are just one person in charge of a space and they're out for whatever reason, we do check in and then check in with their boss or their colleagues and be like, hey, can you approve this?
Yeah. Yeah. And are you the main person that monitors all of those approvals yourself, or does your team do that, or what's that
My
look like?
team does that. It's when they're reviewing the events. I could show you the art day at a glance. It's got tons of events in it and how I'll just since we're talking about it now, might as well. So here you can see if you had any tasks, they'd show up here. Any other answered questions. You can tailor this too to how you would like it, everybody. So like whatever's there, if you want to add more or take things off, you can do that in your settings here. I have my reports listed here, so they're easier for me to just jump to. But currently our request. So everything that's been approved, and this is basically my team is working with these people. They're still working on diagrams, we're still working on questions to make sure there's equipment, which is why it's still living in this world. Also for our event managers, when you go to user settings, it's called an event coordinator, and you can put in whatever title that they fall into, and then their initials. I did this a little bit ago, so not all these events are updated, but eventually, whenever they're working on an event, their initials will show up here. And that lets my student workers know, oh, I don't need to touch that event. That's an event manager event. I don't have to look at it. Someone else is working on it.
Mhm.
So this kind of helps them know. And so lots of approvals, lots of stuff to look at. Obviously, all of the services are here. This cool little button lets you just see a like summary of that event too. Sometimes I just want to copy like the event code or whatever, so I just pull up this box. So these are our events that are waiting for approvals. So these are like the secondary approvals that get those 3 days. Did I skip an area?
Do you have any that
Oh
are
yeah. And
not?
then anything that's denied falls under here. So this is all of our event managers. They're working with some denials right now. And then stuff that doesn't have approvals fall into this pink category. Again, I really like the colors of Mazévo. It helps keep everything organized and easily to view. So for an example of our event managers events, you can see some inventory issues will pop up. That is for lovely Claudia to take care of. But our event manager events are huge. So like they have tons of stuff here, tons of resources added, well, eventually added. There's a lot there already. That they're working on. Something that I actually just showed somebody the other day, is if you're working on an event and you're like, oh, what is happening in that room? Can I change the times on it? I don't know. Instead of going and like opening up another tab and going to your event book, you can click this little book right here and it opens up your event for that specific day and location, and you get to see what's happening. I really like that feature. I use it a lot. Along with this little plus to open up a new Mazévo tab instead of having to open a tab.
Mm.
Hopefully everyone's using these little tips and tricks because they make it so much faster. Like they make it you just fly through things.
Mhm.
I also, just as a shout out to Mazévo, I love that every time you open something, it just opens it in a new tab so you don't lose what you're working on the first page. Other websites, I have that problem where I'm jumping around too much and I get lost. So I do appreciate that. Um, Scheduled emails. So in our system, we have a couple different emails that are automatically sent out to our clients. which is really great, honestly. We don't have to remember to do it. The system just does it for us. So if someone's requesting our back court, they get an email that specifies like that if they're going to have equipment, that means they have to put matting down and other details. So if someone indicates that they're going to have food or catering or beverages, they'll get an email with information that says you need to work with our catering department. We also have reminders. Hey, your event's coming up. We found that some people were putting in their events, like I mentioned, a year in advance, or some events are in 2026, and this lets people know 2 weeks beforehand. Hey, your event's coming up. Do you still want your event? Do you need to cancel it? Do we need to change it? So just a little reminder to them.
Mhm.
If they have events in the library, we have an email for that. Um, Again, I mentioned you could rent our carts from facilities management. So if you do that, they have an email that goes to you that says, hey, this is the directions about how to return the carts. We do have special rooms where we need to have a different group on campus called the Student Worker Program come in first before our team does. So anytime one of those locations is picked, the person will get an email saying, hey, just so you know, you picked a location that has special things that are involved with it. So please pay attention and book them if you need them.
Mhm.
We also have at the end of every event a survey that goes out. Tell us how we did. How can we improve? And then a follow-up survey, 48 hours, because people tend to ignore the first one.
Yeah, what kind of response do you get on your surveys typically? Do you get a lot of people that fill them out or not too many or?
I don't remember what the percentage is, but it's a dwindling percentage as time goes on, and it's really only used for either high praise or high complaints.
Hmm. Yeah.
Kind of like other feedback that you get out there in the world, which makes sense. And usually by the time we get the survey, I've already have been informed about the issue and have already like talked to the client too. So it's a way of just tracking it really
Yeah.
for us and making sure that like maybe a problem did come up that they didn't tell me about. Now I know.
Yeah.
Okay. Now moving on to what we have as resources. So our resources, we have tons of AV stuff from microphones and chairs and tables and FM resources are in there from like trash and recycling. If you need A-frames, if you are bringing in rented equipment to campus to let us know what it is. Um, uh, Again, table stage, all kinds of stuff. But since we have so many locations, and some locations already have built-in equipment that's only for that location, and those kind of locations we don't bring in other equipment since it already has it. We work with the room exclusions little option here, and each of these for example, we have our stage, our outdoor stage. So our outdoor stage, only resources that are allowed are these. And then you could tell it which locations. So this is really handy, and it organizes it very nicely for us here. We use a lot of these, so they help on the back end. Sometimes our staff wants other stuff, so they're able to see all the inventory. So this is specifically for our like internal clients who are using the system, who are submitting events. They can see what's actually available in those given rooms. Some rooms don't have podiums, so when they go, "Hey, I want a podium," why doesn't it show up? That's because that room doesn't have a podium, so you can't book it. Um, I think that makes sense. Any questions there?
Um, question back to the survey. I was just curious how you're collecting data on those surveys. Do you have some kind of a survey
It's
software?
a link. It's through we use Smart Sheets,
Gotcha.
but you could use a link for like Pink Monkey, Survey Monkey, um, Wufoo does forms too, Google Forms, like any link you put in there, and then you just collect the data.
Okay.
Okay. So sometimes in our systems, we have people who want to see spaces but don't actually have access, higher access in the system. And I don't want to give them higher access in the system because they don't really need it and they don't need to see anything, everything. They really only just want to see what's happening in their spaces. So I have created calendars for people, and each of these calendars, I've labeled them by location. So whoever wants to look at just the stage, for example, this will just show them all the events that are happening on the stage, and we can show you here an example. So the calendar will open, and you can see there's nothing happening on the day. So you can look at the week. This is showing what's happening Friday. You can look at the month view, so it'll show you everything happening on the stage for the month. And it also puts it in a nice calendar view too. So there's different views for your clients to look at and work off of. And if they click it, they get a little bit more information about it. I find that calendars are really helpful, like when people are just in charge of certain locations. Maybe it's just a room, for instance, and I don't want to give them the whole building. We can do a room tag and just make a calendar just for that specific room. Um, Another thing I really like doing is the find events feature. So obviously, everyone probably uses the standard bit quite a bit, which is really easy. You can also access it from here too at the top if anyone just want. I usually use this mainly when I have the event code already. So I just kind of use the top one for that. But you can actually click organization or contact or event name and just work from the top here if you don't want to go to actually my find events in here. But if you do come here and you go to the advanced section, you can add filters here if you have other things you want to look at, which is really nice. So, like they have the time of the day. So, if you want to see how busy a room is for a specific time of day, day of the week, if you want to pull up event questions, you can add those there too. Now, something that is may not be as obvious to everybody here that I really do like to play with and add is this little display columns. If you click on the row here, you can add more things, and there's quite a few things you can add. Um, Anywhere from billing stuff to adding email addresses to maybe you want to see the attendance, and that's something that pops up on the standard event find. So you can add that to look up attendance. Um, you can also add questions. So when you pull up events for like maybe a specific room, you can see how all those events answered that specific question. Mhm. I do this when I want to. For example, if I'm creating an event in the system and it's in a space I don't really use that often, I will go and use the advanced filter here and pick the room and pick the setup type and get an example of something we've done in the past and how we set it up in the system. And then I just kind of cheat and look at that and go, oh, that's what we did in the past. Cool. So this is a quick, easy way to filter it and find exactly what you want. And what's great is once you run a report, you can actually go and save it too if you want to come back to it. You can either save it just for yourself or you can save it for public views. So I kind of have some for myself here that I go back to quite regularly. And if I want events that have food and beverage, I can just, let's say for just today, I only have one. That's pretty great. And this shows up here. And then public views. So if you want to save something, but you want your colleagues to be able to access it, or anybody else, like you and yourself run the same report every day, you can just save it and just continuously go back to it. So I have, if I want to know when Claudia here is having events, that's what this one is for. We can pick for the entire year and run. Oh, there we go. And then this shows us Claudia's events from January 1st through December 31st. And these are all the ones that she's working on and that she's doing. It shows them each as individual events. So each line item. So if you want to see them like condensed, you can click this shows events here. And we went from 600 to 24. So that shows that some of her events are huge and have a lot of bookings underneath them. And you can see by the colors, like where she's had them, if they're confirmed. The gray means there's mixed, so she's still working on a couple of them, meaning some are confirmed, some are still requested. The pink here is requested, just so she's still working on that one. She hasn't finished it yet. And this is great. So we have other public views of just certain locations. Again, here I have a food and beverage one. Does anyone have any questions? You can also, oh, sorry, you can also subscribe these. So, like, if you want to get it every day. Um, some of these people have made reports and they last run. They haven't, like they just made it once and saved as a public view and clearly didn't come back to it. So these are the kinds of things I could go and clean up now that I think about it. Make note for later, future me. Um, and that's pretty much it, unless somebody wants me to actually go through a request and what people actually do. I can show that.
I
I
was
don't know
going
how
to
much
ask,
time we have left.
Kelly, we talked about this, you and I, when we were setting this up, the welcome email that goes out to your new account.
Yes.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, yes, is that one of my scheduled emails?
Um,
It's on, it should be under your account settings,
I
I
think it's,
think.
yeah, account settings.
Uh-oh.
Where did it go?
Where are my account settings?
Oh, yeah, you may have to log out and back in or something. So,
Let's see. There we go. Yes. So, okay, what we're talking about to fill everybody in here is I thought it would be a great idea that when people first logged into Mazévo that they got a welcome email that just automatically gave them the training guides I created and automatically was like, here are our rules, please follow them. Here's our FAQ. And so Mazévo did come up with, you guys will have to remind me where it is.
second one down, account settings. There you go.
Okay.
And then,
Yes, there we go. This is where we have our emails. So my welcome new requester email. It says, welcome to Mazévo. We're thrilled to have you on board. Um, if you have any questions, here's our email address. Here's some handy dandy guides about how to make an event. And if you have any questions to reach out to us. I have asked and they said eventually they'll able to add, oh, there's a link. Oh, no, add an attachment, excuse me. So eventually I want an attachment here to also put in our FAQ. But right now I just have a link to it, which also works. So it's the same information either way.
Kelly, click the document tab.
Hey, look, it's here. Oh, and I already did it. Thanks, Pass Kelly. Apparently I'm a little, all right.
Put
My
you on
brain
the
is at,
spot.
I've
It's
reached
okay.
the top of my brain here.
All right. It's all right. You already did it.
So it's already there, so you can add documents, so when people first log into Mazévo, whether they've used it before or not, they get this email that says, welcome, we're happy to have you. Here's some training guides, here's our FAQ. The FAQ is also attached, obviously now. And I have found that that's just a really handy way, just instead of every time I see someone log in, reaching out to them and being like, hey, welcome, here's training guides, reach out if you have questions. So it just kind of took the work off for me.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's also a great example that if any of you have ideas for Mazévo, just shoot them an email. Like sometimes they can do it within the next cycle of their updates, and sometimes it takes longer and they add it to their roadmap. But just from a client standpoint of Mazévo, like they're always open and willing to talk about ideas and talk through things. And if you're unclear about something, they can help walk you through it. Recently, I was struggling with my overbooked inventory issues, so I reached out to them and they were helping me through that. So even though I've been a customer with them for 3 years now, almost, yeah, actually, it's been over a little couple days over 3 years. just I'm always reaching out to them and they're always still very helpful. Even when I feel like I'm bothering them or bugging them, they're still more than helpful to help fix things and explain things too. I think with that being said, I've covered everything I wanted to cover. And if we have questions,
Yeah, open it up for anybody that has questions here. Feel free
that's our
to.
beautiful campus from graduation, all the millions of chairs we set up because we still have graduation on campus. So I thought that was a fun picture to show.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, go ahead and put your questions in the chat if you have any questions for Kelly, or feel free to unmute yourself if you'd rather do it that way. Looks like Marie's got a question here. She's asking about external requesters. Do you have any folks external to the college that put requests in? And if so, how do you manage that?
They're no. Our external groups don't have access to Mazévo. We'll put the request in for them.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if they're not an actual LMU employee, then then we do the work for them, and they have to go through contracting and things like that first.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, that's pretty common. We see that a lot. A lot of folks don't allow external requesters. Some do though, and some that works for, especially if you have repeat customers that, you're fine with giving them a login, but yeah, it kind of depends. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, Kelly, a question that came up when I was on my trip to Florida. Folks were talking a lot about no-shows and folks that book something and then they don't show up for their meeting or their event. Is that something you all have to deal with very much? And what do you do with those?
We do occasionally. We do have emails that go out warning people, like if you don't cancel and we set up your event, there's possibly a $250 charge for
Mhm.
labor and for use of our equipment that could have gone to other events or other resources.
Yeah.
Since usually that's just kind of a threat I give. We don't, we've only charged a couple of times, to be honest with you. Um, and so far the threats have worked, honestly. Like we've seen less events not showing up for their events. So
Yeah, that's good.
that usually is more of our student organizations. So it's the students that book something and forgot they booked something and then ignore all the emails telling them, hey, remember your event's coming up. So
There's
Here's another question that came in, asking about those calendars that you showed everybody, where, here's a calendar for specific spaces and things. They're wondering if you have an issue with folks seeing those calendars and seeing who's got things scheduled, and then people calling them and going, "Hey, you have this room. Can I get that room?" Or, something like that.
that's why, yes, we are very locked down that we don't have like any of our events public and we don't tell people, hey, you can't have this space. We're not going to tell you why. We don't tell you what's already booked in there. Um, I'm sorry, what was the question? I lost my brain.
Well, just is that yeah, how big of an issue is that for you with people trying to work around the system and,
Oh, right, the calendar. Sorry, I forgot that was tied to the calendar question here. The calendars only go to people who are like specific people and
Mhm.
like they're in charge of that location specifically, so they need to know who those people are.
Mhm.
They're not public calendars that I just give out to anybody or everybody because it does show that information, and people will start being sharks and trying to wheel and deal their way into rooms without when they shouldn't.
Yeah.
So we try very hard to not share information like that. And that's why I created these specific calendars. So those people can only see specific rooms. They can't see other spaces in campus that they're not in charge of.
Yeah. Makes sense. Uh, Alejandro has a question here about other types of, I'm going to call them miscellaneous charges. For instance, like, they've got excessive trash or there was some damage to the space or the equipment. How do you all deal with those types of things?
Those things happen after the fact. And like it's when my operation team is cleaning up and like putting the stuff away and they find paint on the table. that they didn't put tablecloths down and they now have paint all over our tables, or like food or damage, like if someone jumped on a table, now it's broken.
Mhm.
Um, we the operation team lets me know, and I reach out to the group and I said, hey, here are the pictures, here's the damages, here's what we found. If it's excessive enough, we do charge them, and we ask for their billing information at that point.
Okay. And so do
We
you
do
track?
try to warn groups ahead of time, like, oh, if you're having food, you're going to need tablecloths. If you're doing a painting event, we have a lot of student groups that do painting events and things like that. Or we do have like a holly celebration with the colored dyes that do stain our table. So we have to make sure that all of our equipment is far away from that kind of things.
Mhm.
So we do warn them. So we don't want to charge them, and we don't want to. We're not here to make money off of our groups. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
um, other charges we do have in the system. For example, we offer a complimentary 15-minute tech person to come out and make sure that the tech is turned on and that it's working. But for groups that want a tech person there the entire time, that takes 2 weeks notice ahead of time to make sure the tech people are available. And that does come with a charge because it's somebody with a specialized skill coming in to help out. Um, for our basketball courts, if anybody wants equipment put on it, we have to put matting down first to not ruin the floor. That comes with a specific charge. And those things are in Mazévo when you book them. We specifically ask in the notes, give us your budget information. This is how much it's going to be. So that when they book it, they already know there's a cost tied to this thing.
Great. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions roll in, and I know we're right about at our time here.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Well, Kelly, this has been great. Thank you so much for sharing this information with everybody here. I think those were some great tips that you were able to share with everybody. And yeah, we really appreciate it. So, with that said, I don't know, do you have any last words or anything at this point?
Actually, let me throw my email address in the chat if anyone ever wants to reach out to me about anything
Okay.
revolving around Mazévo or events or anything like that. I am always happy to talk Mazévo. I call Mazévo my baby sometimes. I feel like I helped birth it into to life here at LMU. And I'm just a regular goofy person. So hopefully you've enjoyed this presentation.
Yeah, that was great. And thank you for sharing that information. That's a great resource. And yeah, so everybody, thank you for joining our webinar today. I hope this was helpful and stay tuned. I will be putting out some information for next month here very shortly on what the next topic will be. But thanks everybody for participating. And thank you, Kelly, as well for the great presentation. And we'll look forward to seeing you all next time.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
listening.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.